rockets hurling space probes deep into the cosmos, sound waves compelling solid objects to float in midair, laser beams vaporizing targets with pinpoint accuracy. Are these stunning examples of mankind's modern technology, or are they merely recent incarnations of scientific achievements that have roots stretching back to the ancient past? Several cultures depict modern technology being used thousands of years ago. They worked with technology that could literally split the Earth in two. How could they have possessed these advanced weapons that we've only just acquired today? Something in our past has been lost, and we're searching for that answer. Millions of people around the world believe we've been visited in the past by extraterrestrial beings. What if it were true? Did ancient aliens really help to shape our history? And did mankind's cutting-edge technology spring from our imagination? Or could it have come from a source much farther away? In the early morning hours of November 5, 2005, the luxury cruise ship the Seaborne Spirit found itself under attack by pirates in the waters off the coast of Somalia. But the Somali bandits were successfully repelled by a relatively new and formidable defensive weapon, a long-range acoustic device, LRAD, manufactured by the LRAD Corporation. When focused on a target, this sonic device can produce a piercing sound that exceeds 150 decibels, enough to cause temporary blindness, nausea, and permanent hearing loss. The U.S. Army used sonic weapons in Iraq for crowd control, experts say. Certain types of low rumbles and signals can affect a person. They make you feel sick. The LRAD is currently used by law enforcement, the military, and private security, and is considered the ultimate in sonic weaponry. But is the LRAD really a 21st century invention? Or is there evidence that similar audio weapons existed in ancient times? Approximately 17 miles northeast of Jerusalem lies the ancient ruins of the city of Jericho. Here, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of settlements dating back to 9000 BC. According to the Hebrew Bible, Jericho is where God spoke to Joshua, the successor to Moses, instructing him to march around the walled city once every day for 6 days, with 7 priests carrying ram's horns, followed by the Ark of the Covenant, the golden chest containing the 10 Commandments. Then, on the 7th day, under God's orders, Joshua and the Israelites marched around the city one last time. But this time, they blew the ram's horns. The walls of Jericho fell, and the city was sacked. The Old Testament provides clear descriptions in Joshua 6 about the shofar, described as a trumpet used in the Battle of Jericho to bring the walls down. To religious scholars, the collapse of Jericho's walls was a miracle. To modern scientists and historians, the destruction was most likely caused by an earthquake. But could it have been something else? Could the Israelites have possessed advanced sound wave technology? If so, where did it come from? In the scriptures, we have a fascinating story about the fall of the walls of Jericho. Armies were told to circle the wall repeatedly and then finally blow their horns, and down came the walls. We know there was a powerful presence, the Ark of the Covenant, this mysterious sacred item with them at all times, which was part of the event and the fall of Jericho. The idea that some kind of sonic weapon was used to destroy these huge, thick ancient walls to allow the Israelites to take over the city is fascinating. What kind of technology were they using? It sounds utterly fantastic to us that they could have some kind of advanced alien technology. Clearly what they're describing. There is little doubt that the Ark of the Covenant was a weapon. It was described as a weapon. Famously, when the Israelites crossed over into Canaan, they had to pass by Jericho. It could be that there was some technology. We do not know what that technology was. But there was clearly an association between the Ark and the falling down of the walls. That's the reason the Ark was sent around the periphery of the city. According to many ancient astronaut theorists, Moses and the Israelites acquired a supernatural source of energy at Mount Sinai. This powerful energy source was later contained in the Ark of the Covenant and would have provided the kind of power necessary to amplify Joshua's horns and turn them into a powerful sonic weapon. What's interesting about the Battle of Jericho is that this particular use of the shofar clearly seems akin to particle beam technology, death ray technology, thunderbolt technology. It seems that, once again, we have an extraterrestrial technology that ancient people had at the ready for military campaigns. But even if the Israelites possessed some sort of advanced extraterrestrial technology, Could the amplified sound of ram's horns really bring down stone walls? According to scientist and former astronaut Professor Taylor Wang, recent research into the field of physical acoustics suggests it is a distinct possibility. Jericho's wall breaking apart, if you say it happened, caused by acoustics, caused by sound. One possibility has to be that somehow a resonance is built in that wall, Wang explains. When that resonance happens, amplitude gets large enough. Yes, it could destroy almost anything. Because what the resonance does is store enormous energy. You keep on feeding it. Eventually, it shatters everything. When considering how powerful sound can be, we must realize that sound is essentially a pressure wave. The amount of energy you put into your sound wave determines whether that particular pressure wave will impact the object you're trying to destroy. You can make it quite powerful by creating a very high amplitude and large pressures in the sound. It might be at a frequency amplitude where we no longer hear it as sound, but from a physics standpoint, it is still sound because it's a pressure wave in the air. It can get quite destructive if you put enough energy into it. You could also think of it as a particle weapon because you're moving air around, and you would just need something to focus the sound, which we know how to do, and that would give you a directed energy beam with sound. But if, as ancient astronaut theorists suggest, early civilizations had been able to harness the power of sound for destructive purposes, could there be evidence that such technology might also have been used for more constructive purposes? Might it help to explain the existence of mammoth stone structures whose construction has baffled modern scientists for centuries? Mycenae. In the 2nd millennium BC, was an ancient fortress city that dominated much of southern Greece. Here, fortifications were built in a style known as Cyclopean masonry, where huge limestone boulders were fitted tightly together without the use of mortar. The term Cyclopean refers to the fact that, according to ancient myths, these Mycenaean fortifications were thought to be the work of a strong, one-eyed race of giants known as the Cyclops. When you look at Mycenae in Greece, you're confronted with an anomalous civilization. It is a city that people who looked at it said only the Cyclops could have built. The Cyclops is perhaps not by coincidence a mythical creature. We're confronted with the fact that people are saying mankind could not have built this. It has to have been something above or other than man who constructed these walls. When you consider that tons and tons of stones have been used in a way that defies gravity, it's clear that Mycenae is beyond the human capability of that specific time and period in Greek history. In Mycenae there is what's called the Treasury of Atreus. Right there, over the entrance of that treasury, is one stone that weighs an estimated 250 tons. It is perfect. Just unbelievable. We would have difficulties today moving that. Now, we're not saying we can't do it today, but if we're struggling with our modern technology, is it logical to suggest that our ancestors did this with pivots, little ropes, and wooden rollers? You look at ancient structures all over the world, Mayan structures, pyramids, Greek temples, and you see all of these blocks that are not only enormous, but would be impossible to move around, even with our best technology today. One of the great enigmas of megalithic buildings around the world is that in many cases, they're built with such large and heavy granite or basalt stones that even giant cranes would barely be useful to lift some of them. Take the stones at Baalbek in Lebanon, where you have mind-boggling huge stones that weigh, in some cases, over 1,000 tons. But just how could ancient man have built such colossal structures? Were the stones really moved by beings with superhuman strength? Or might the builders have had access to advanced, perhaps alien technology? For ancient astronaut theorists, the key might be found not by studying the laws of physics, but by exploring the interdisciplinary science of acoustics and the principle of acoustic levitation. Acoustic levitation is another way that alien civilizations may have influenced our history, some suggest. There is evidence for that, especially when you look at some of the research that's been done in acoustic levitation in laboratories. This system is an acoustic positioning device, explains one scientist. Inside, we create an acoustic force field. The force field pushes everything toward the center. It can rotate and oscillate. This part is fairly light material, about 10 grams. It's meant to be light. But if you want to move a very heavy object, a large object, you really have to develop, in conjunction with that acoustic positioning device, an anti-gravity device. The acoustic positioning device is meant to fine-tune the force field, but the system must be force-free. Otherwise, it won't budge. But is it possible that early builders had access to the kind of acoustic technology that would allow for the transportation and careful placement of megaton boulders and stone blocks? Ancient astronaut theorists believe clues can be found in the myths and tales of magic handed down through time. There are many ancient legends suggesting that some monuments were built with the help of acoustic levitation. The local legend of Stonehenge, for example, talks about those big stones being transported by way of levitation by none other than Merlin the wizard. He had a magical rod with which he pointed at the stones, and they would levitate and position into place. It's a fascinating story because we know that some of these stones were transported from as far away as 200 miles. Ancient legends are a bridge to discovering what truly happened in our past. There are numerous stories of stones being levitated using the power of sound. It's interesting, as you read these stories of magic, that they involve chanting certain spells or words, vibrational frequencies that seem to create certain effects in the physical realm. It makes complete sense that the use of a technology, say a magic wand, would be some sort of amplifier. There's no way that human beings, even 100,000 of them, could pull these things. Experiments have been done by putting hands around blocks. You can't get enough hands in there. You can't get 200,000 hands to lift the block, and once you roll it with all these people, how do you move it? The technology had to do with some kind of sound, and they were able to come up with anti-gravity and move them into place. But did ancient aliens, using anti-gravity and sonic levitation technology, help early humans build the ancient wonders of the world? Well, anything is possible. We have no way to rule in or rule out aliens because human technology is very primitive at this stage. Earth has only existed for 4 billion years, but there are planets billions of years ahead of us. Their technology and knowledge can be so far ahead that we can't even imagine. If early civilizations did possess the ability to levitate large solid objects, might they also have possessed another, even greater ability? Might they have mastered the power of flight? Flying saucers, UFOs. Mainstream historians claim sightings of these mysterious craft are mostly a 20th century phenomenon. But according to ancient astronaut theorists, unidentified flying objects have been appearing in Earth's skies for thousands of years. Depictions of flying saucers and what seem to be ancient spacecraft go back to some of the earliest cave paintings we know of. Scientists date these paintings back to 20,000, 30,000 BC, found in Russia, China, Africa, South America, and other areas. They appear to depict some kind of spacecraft. You can look back at ancient Sumerian inscriptions from Babylon and see discs with wings around them and depictions of people flying in them. You see the same in Egypt, where round discs have wings coming off them. What you're dealing with is most likely a flying saucer being seen in space. In Guatemala, Central America, according to most mainstream scholars and archaeologists, the earliest human settlements in this region date back over 14,000 years. Numerous ancient artifacts have been found here. Among them, a figure of a man lying inside what appears to be the shell of a turtle. When local archaeologists were asked about this, they said without flinching, "This is, according to legend, the giant flying turtles which flew around in Guatemala. The entire body is aerodynamically fashioned. The extremities are pressed in aerodynamic fashion against the body of the turtle. If you look closely, it's as if there are modern-day fighter pilot glasses or goggles. This artifact comes from the same culture and region where they created a turtle in clay. They knew exactly what a turtle looks like. What we have here is everything but a turtle. It's something else. In their frame of reference, they use the turtle as the best example of what they might have seen the gods flying around in. Halfway around the world in 329 BC, the Greek ruler Alexander the Great planned the invasion of India. But according to ancient texts, his army was supposedly thwarted by a strange attack from the skies. As Alexander's army was preparing to cross the Indus and invade India, suddenly in the sky appeared these flying discs. They began dive-bombing the war elephants that were part of Alexander's army. These flying discs caused stampedes within Alexander's own war elephants, which then ran amok throughout his army, tearing up the camps.